Fusion World community, welcome back to another video with Chris. And today I'm going to be starting a new series in prep for Gencon for anyone who's going to be going to Gencon. I myself would love to be going, but that's why I decided to make these videos so I can give some insight to maybe those who they're going to be their first big event, or maybe you just want a little more information on Fusion World if you're sort of newer to the game. Maybe you've been playing the game and you just need a different outlook. That's what this series is hopefully going to be able to do, is just to be helpful to somebody who just may be struggling or just wants just a little bit of help. So today we are going to be going over blue, and then the other three videos we'll go over each of the other three colors, as well as giving you a deck that I feel that I would play if I was playing that particular color. So you guys will see that deck in the video. You guys might be able to tell by the thumbnail as well which deck that is, but I'll kind of talk about that once we get to that point. So to start with, we have 4 blue decks in the pool thus far, and all 4 have their own little strengths. Right now it seems that Vegeta is still probably the go-to for most people, and that can be sort of taken different ways. Obviously Vegeta hasn't really performed the best in the post top coup. We've seen a few different events now. I think we might have 1 or 2 that have gotten top 60, top 16, which is good, but not winning the event, not being in top 4, that's kind of what we want from our leader, of course, right? So you have the span here, and blue has it's kind of shifted. So with blue was sort of the counter pick, the top coup, and now the top coup's gone. We've seen yellow kind of forming the format now, and honestly I would say blue has a better matchup now against against yellow. Just across the board, all four leaders I think have a pretty good matchup against yellow. Just overall, just card pool for card pool. And I think the red matchup has sort of gone down now. I think with red sort of as the square goes, sort of, and the blue has a good matchup, really good into yellow, and I think it's just gotten better now that yellow's more popular because you're going to be playing against it more. But I think the red matchup, while red is sort of the red's technically like the counter to yellow, I think the blue matchup against red has sort of gotten, it's gotten worse. Blue is not as dominant as it was against red. You're kind of spending more resources, and now since red's sort of playing this more elongated game, playing bigger battle cards, you're having to waste more energy to remove these cards. So it's a little bit different. And obviously there's different styles of red, so depending on the person you're playing against, you might have more of a better matchup than you would against someone who's maybe playing the long game in red, right? But nevertheless, the 2 kind of big tools that you would use in most matchups against both of these colors gonna be these 2 cards here, which is the Vegito 3-drop and Sinister Sickle. Both of these cards are fantastic for just removing things on board, right? Vegito reducing all cards on board by 1, and also bottom decking a card, which is very powerful. It can bottom deck technically a 2-drop, which is good, and then you can kind of just reduce everything else that's on board, as well as the Sickle being able to hit 2 4-cost cards. So like minimum you're able to hit I mean, you're more likely not gonna hit 1-drops with this, but like you're gonna hit 2 2-drops, 2 3-drops. Like you're getting 4 energy worth, 6 energy worth, up to 8 energy worth of cards. It's pretty powerful for 3 energy. And you have ways of recurring it, which is very, very cool as well. So both of these cards are obviously cards you should be running in your blue deck, regardless of what leader you're playing. They should be in there as at least 2 or 3 ofs, and then depending on how you feel about your build, you might end up maxing these cards out. But 2 very important cards, especially with the Sickle, that you're able to hit with both of these matchups are going to be the 17 in red and the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. So both of these cards have effects where they can't be removed by KOs. Which is great for blue, because blue doesn't really have any KO effect other than you swinging into that card. So with both of these cards, you can just Sinister Sickle both of these cards to the bottom of the deck, and that's really powerful, right? That is going to stop you from having to deal with a 25k or even bigger red leader, or not being able to remove a yellow board because of this Vegeta card. You can't just swing in the stuff. So both of these cards, being able to bottom deck them, and that means more than likely they're never going to get access to these cards again. Unless they draw a second or third or fourth copy of those cards. So just being able to remove things like this is going to be very powerful, just allowing you to sequence and clear their board while you're also trying to push for game. And blue is sort of elongated. You're generally playing mid to late game, matchups anyways. Blue doesn't really have a lot of aggressive tools. They lack double strikers, and I think they only really have one double striker in the entire color pool, and most of their damage is going to be single strike. So what you're really doing is you're just trying to use these cards to alleviate the pressure that you have on board, so you can survive next turn and then sort of out resource them as you get into later steps of the game. Another card that you're able to do that too is going to be the Zamasu. Now this was really good against red at a particular point because of the Master Roshi, but now with Master Roshi being gone, red doesn't play a ton of one drops. You have like the one drop Skillless TN and the one drop Frieza that becomes a 25k if you're awoken and you are playing the U7 leader. So for one energy, you can remove a 20k body or a 25k body. That's very good. In yellow, this is very good. You can remove Bulma. You can remove the Ginyu that draws them a card. You also can remove the Sorbet that they play on turn 1 generally. So that way they can't go into their Ginyu Raccoon play as easily. They have to spend more energy. So these are cards that you should definitely be playing in your deck. All three of these should be staples in any of the 4 decks that you play in blue, regardless, just because of their just generic impact on the game. Now, switching from cards that are very impactful to a card that is not very impactful is this Videl. So I've done some pretty extensive testing with this Skillless idea, and as much as you can spam out cards, you suffer from an incredibly low hand size and an inability to survive if your opponent starts clearing your cards or if they clear your Videl, right? So now you have a deck full of these 3-drop Skillless cards that you're not really wanting to pay 3 energy for, and now you're basically just playing solitaire. Like, you're basically just playing like old red starter coup from set 1, and it's just not very good. Especially against what you're going to be playing against. So this Videl combination, I would say, is a trap, and I would try to avoid it if you are playing really anything. I mean, like, the best deck that this idea kind of works in is Vegeta, but that's because the Vegeta leader is already a 35k swing on Awoken, and you're going to have a small hand size anyways. So that's probably the best sort of build for it, but that doesn't mean that the build is actually good. So, like I said, I tried to make this very good because I love the idea of being able to spin out these 25Ks, but it's just not very good. It's good for early pressure, but then if your opponent's smart, they're not going to swing at your leader. You might be at 6 or 7 life, but you got like 2 or 3 cards in hand. So, not very good unless you fully commit to it, and even then, I think this is pretty mid. So I would try to avoid playing this in set 3. Blue gets much better, so just try to stick away from this card for now. Maybe in later sets, if this card becomes like a free play where you can do different things, maybe, but I would kind of stick away from it from now. I'd say one of the big MVPs of blue, and I haven't really seen it in a lot of blue. I've seen it in some of the blue decks, but is this Zamasu Fused. This 4-drop card here is devastating, and it helps you in probably your worst matchup, which is the whole theme of the back half of this video, is going to be green. Green right now is not doing so hot, you could say. I mean, it's won 2 regionals. I think Android 17, 18, and then there's a Broly that won. But people aren't really looking at green as the boogeyman anymore. Everyone's kind of looking at at yellow. And if you find yourself playing against a lot of green players, this is going to be the card you want to play, because this card has the ability of saving itself once per turn, meaning it's sort of almost immune to being KO'd. Your opponent has to waste more resources to remove this card, and this card's going to be drawing you a card every single turn. This is definitely something to run as maybe even a 4 of. Now, if we do get into a meta where we are seeing more and more red decks, this card definitely becomes a little more of a liability, because red can just reduce its power to 0, and then it can't come back after the effect. That's not a KO effect. So that part kind of sucks, but if we're in sort of this yellow-green format, this card is definitely going to be very impactful, so make sure you pick up your copies and you have it. And the boss monster that I kind of think you should be playing around here is going to be the Goku Black. This card here is powerful in the fact you are adding back a card from the drop area, regardless of how many cards you have in hand. But then also you're able to play a 4 or less from your hand if you have 7 or less cards. So you're able to swing a 40k body, and then up most you can swing up to another 30k body, which is fantastic. This allows you to establish a very, very big card that really only green has the ability of removing, and blue to an extent, but every other color has to spend a decent amount of resources to remove this card, whether it's energy or cards from hand, and that's a benefit to you. Right, so this card here is definitely going to be kind of what you want to focus your end game around with blue, and this is why I chose Goku Black as the deck that I would be playing if I went to Gen Con, and probably if I would be playing in any of the big events right now if I wanted to play blue. This is by far my favorite blue leader. Being a crit leader on the front side I think is incredibly powerful, meaning you don't have to swing really to gain value. You can swing if you would like to, and when you swing you are swinging for crit, and then being able to play Goku Black cards for a reduced cost of 2 in your hand when you bottom deck as a Zamasu card on board is very powerful as well. So this actually allows you to play out the 6 drop we just saw, 4 energy instead of 6. So very powerful there. Now, what I also think is because of that card there, the last cards that we've shown, this kind of gives Goku Black a advantage over blue's worst matchup, which is green. So being able to play, a 25k body that can't die, once per turn, makes it very susceptible to going into any of these leaders, including Broly, being able to just swing just a net neutral against Broly at 25k, and then having a giant 40k body that's, outside of having a Broly or a Cell and spending their entire turn doing that, green doesn't have a lot of answers for those 2 particular cards. So now we're going to switch over, and I'm going to show you the deck list that I have for the leader, and you guys can see what for yourself, what you guys think of the Goku Black deck. All right, so we have the deck list here. So this is a 51 card list. Normally I like this to run around 52, 53, but because this leader doesn't have the ability of rolling on the front side, we had to reduce it just a little bit just to make consistency a little bit better. So first, to do that, we do run the 1-drop Trunks here, just a 1-drop cantrip. This card does allow us to kind of double draw if we go first, so we get the draw for the new rule mechanic, and then also draw all this cantrip. So we're just able to dig 2 cards deeper into our deck, which is great. The more cards we can see in this deck, that's gonna be the better for us. 4 of the 1-drop Zamasus. This allows you to bottom deck any card, like I said. Very good tool. 1-drop. It's a 10k. Sending cards to the bottom of the deck is a very good effect, so you want to make sure that you're running this card as a 4 of. We run 4 of the 2-drop Zamasu. So this card cannot be removed from the battle area by your opponent's skills. So why this is good is, especially in the green matchup, this gives you a permanent card that you can just keep standing until you decide to play a Goku Black. So what's good about this is that, again, as I said before, you are playing your gigantic Goku Blacks off of this effect where you're bottom decking a Zamasu, and then you're reducing it by 2. So what you can do is on turn 2 you can slam this guy against like a green deck. You just keep it standing, and then when you go to play that Goku Black, you swing with this, discard a card, draw a card, and then you can play the 6-drop, which then can grab a card from the drop area. So if you drop a 4 cost or less, you can just pick that card up off the Goku Black and then swing with the Goku Black and then play that card, right? So just very, very good value. I think this is an easy 4 of in this deck. Again, if you kind of see yourself playing into more of a red format, you might change this. I think we're going to see a lot of yellow at Gen Con. I know a red deck just won the Nationals, not the Nationals, but the event we had in California. That's not necessarily, I'm thinking it's going to define the format. But if green becomes more popular, or if yellow stays popular, Zamasu is going to be very, very good. For Trunks Youth, this is the card I don't think a lot of people are actually playing ever. So this is a 2-drop 15k. It's a 10k combo. Blocker, on play, add up to 1 card from your life drain. So this is very similar to the Zarbon that is in yellow. Why would you play this over the other Trunks, right? So this allows us to take a life without having to swing. I know the other Trunks does that as well, but this also is a blocker. So if we're playing into a crit matchup, or if we're just playing into a matchup where, especially red, like if they're playing the Khalifas, or if we're playing into like Beerus, again, he's going to be using crit. We can play this, take a life, and then use this to block their crit attack. So we're able to just get a life off of the top without having to crit one. I think this card's solid. It gives you the defense of the blocker without the other difference with the other trunks is that you have a 25k body potentially. So this just allows me just to take a life regardless. So I'm gonna say this is the one I've done a lot of testing on untap with this, and this feels very good, right? Just dropping this turn 2 early. A lot of decks just can't remove this, and then you can at least get a free block off of it, which is great. And then you might be able to maybe combo a card off just to save it, or you just let it die, and then you're going to pick this card up later off Goku Black. 2 Piccolo. This is a tech card that most blue decks should try to fit in there. This card allows you to add any extra card from the drop if you have 7 or fewer cards in hand. Again, this is a card you can also drop off the Goku Black, so you can use like Gallic Gun or something. Use Goku Black, play this, grab that card back, or grab it back and then use it in that same attack. So it is a 5k, which kind of sucks. Blue is very susceptible to running a lot of 5ks, so we kind of cut it down to 2 just because we're able to grab it. But just another potential tech card to play, and this card's always felt very, very good. So the more blue extra cards that we get, this card is just going to continue to add value to it. 3 of the Vegetos, we already talked about this card. This card is very, very needed. I cut it down to 3 just because I needed space. But if you can find the space for the 4th one, you can always run the 4th one. I just felt 3 was completely fine. I normally ended up playing 2 of them during the game, most games anyways, and then the other one ended up getting charged or comboed off. 4 of the Draw 1 Goku Black. This is a 10k Goku Black. If you use one of the Zamasus, you can technically turn this into a 1-cost Draw 1. Which is good, but also it's important that this is a 10k, and we need 10ks. Blue needs 10ks. I think we have like 18 10ks in this deck. So I kind of buffed up the amount of 10ks just so I had enough combo power. This is definitely going to be worth it. We have the Goku Black here. One of the premium cards you can play off of the 6-drop Goku Black. If you have 7 or fewer cards in hand, you get the bottom deck at 2 cost when this card attacks. Card's very good into yellow. Being able to swing into a yellow card and then bottom deck another card on board, very, very powerful. You can hit Bulma. You can hit any of the 2-drop, free to army the cards that they run. Very, very solid. It is a 5k. Kind of sucks, but we can run 2 of it. It's also, these targets are also very, very great to pitch off of the Zamasu here. So being able to pitch those cards, draw the card, and then cycling that back with the Goku Black 6-drop is just incredibly good value. So like with Goku Black 6, you can grab this, play this, draw a card, grab this, play a 30k, grab this, play this, bottom deck something, grab this, play this, grab something from the drop area. So you have a lot of cycling potential with these cards. So just kind of mix and match and find out which one works for that particular moment, but this is just a way for you just to cycle through your deck. 4 of the promo Goku Black. So the effect on this is okay right now. This will be better next set when blue gets better. But being able to return any Earthling card back to your opponent's hand is fantastic, right? So that is green secret rare you can hit. That is the green double striker. That's Son Gohan. Any of the Son Gohan cards. That's the new 6-drop Goku that's coming out in the next set. But also this is a 10k. That's another reason. So this card just being a 10k just allows you to just have another 10k that you can combo off. You can grab it back with Goku Black. Just more and more synergy for that. And as you notice, a lot of my I'm trying to run as much combo power as I can. So a lot of these a lot of the 10ks you'll see are going to be 4-ofs, and then everything else is kind of 3-ofs or 2-ofs, because 10ks are just the most important ones that I have, especially ones that have like recurring effects, right? We can play this card dies, we can grab it back, play it again. Same thing with this, just gives us more and more cycle ability, and just more survivability in the late game. For the Fuzamasu, I already talked about this card, but this is definitely going to be needed, especially if you're going to be playing against a lot of green. 3 of the secret rare, and I do find the secret rare to be very, very good. Bouncing back a 5 cost is pretty powerful, especially in something like red or into yellow. So these two matchups, again, this is probably where your grind is going to be more so. Green, you're already kind of in a losing battle. This deck, again, has a little bit of a more favorable matchup in the green. Not saying that it's winnable all the time, but it's definitely more favorable. But in red and yellow, being able to bounce back a 5 cost is very good. So that's their Golden Frieza, that's Beerus, that's Super Saiyan Blue Goku, that's the red secret rare, I guess, you know, for that matter. That's a cooler, and your opponent's gonna have to replay that card and use the energy. Basically, that's what their next turn is gonna be. So especially if you bounce back like a 0 cost, that card's more likely getting charged next turn, so then you don't have to worry about the card. Also, this card swinging twice for 30k is very good too. This allows you to clear boards very effectively, or just double swing into a leader just to drain cards out of their hand. And this card being a 5k combo makes it, you know, runnable at more than a 1 of. So I have 3 in here. I think 3 is perfectly fine. 4 of is a little much just because you might not ever get to, you know, playing 4 of them out. You might even, the most you're probably gonna play is 2 of. But especially if you can board 2 of these, but just the ability of just basically resetting your opponent's next turn, forcing them to either have to play that card out again or get rid of it and charge it. Now you permanently you remove that card, so it definitely did its job. Speaking of permanently removing cards, is going to be Zamasu. Not Zamasu, Zeno. We already looked at Zamasu. Removes everything on board, including field spells and including battle cards in your area. So if you're playing against the Android deck, you can use this to bottom deck the field. And Cell, you can use it to bottom deck the field. No one in red plays TOP, but if they did, you can bottom deck that. They have a really big board in yellow, bottom deck it, right? This is just very solid for that, just for resetting the game best, basically, and it is a 10k. That's also good too. Then obviously we run 4 Goku Blacks. 4 felt the best. We don't run a lot of 0ks, as you can see. This is the only 0k we actually run in the deck. So 4 of it's fine. I think 4 or 5 0ks is probably the best most you want to do in a blue deck. So you can also tech in a double striker if you would like. I just never felt it to be useful. Slamming this guy for 4 and then slamming one of these or one of these, it just gives you so much value. And if this card can stick for a turn, it's going to continuously just give you value. This is almost as impactful as a Broly in green is, because this card is just going to technically create 2 swings out of it if it doesn't die. So and it technically does draw you a card. So like this card is almost the same impact as Broly. A little bit worse than Broly, of course, because Broly kills the card, but you know what I mean. And it's 6 energy. Technically in this deck it's 4 energy. And then the extra cards, I run 2 Absolute Lightning, 2 Sinister Sickle, and 3 Gallic Gun. We don't run any of these with 4-ofs because Piccolo can grab back any of these cards. So we don't necessarily need to run a max playset of any of this stuff, just because Piccolo is going to count as 1 extra of each of these. So that is my deck list. This is a 51 card list. Had some pretty extensive testing on it with not on Untap, but on the client. This deck runs incredibly well. But this is what I would take if I was going to Gen Con. Again, I think all 4 blue decks have viability at some point. But I think this having a favorable matchup against green means if you do play against green in those early rounds, you're not just going to be in a possible auto loss as most blue decks are. So that does it for me today in the video, guys. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If there's particular content or information you want me to add to the remaining videos, let me know in the comments. I will try to add those in, or maybe I'll add them in the next set 3 breakdown when we start going over the meta and everything else. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys are going to Gen Con, if you guys are going to be playing a blue deck, whether it's Goku Black or one of the other 3 blue decks, let me know down in the comments. As always, thank you guys for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next video.